When you load up Donald Trump's Truth Social, which you shouldn't, you never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes it's just insane boasting or lies or crazy memes or whatever. And sometimes it's absolutely reprehensible, evil garbage. And so that's what we have for you here. He put this out on Truth Social. It was effectively greenlighting Israeli military strikes on Gaza, including against civilians, unless the hostages are given up. He says, Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later. And immediately return all the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. And look, all that's his blustering warmongering against Hamas. Okay, well, Hamas has done terrible things, so that's hardly out of the norm for Donald Trump. And here's where it gets insane. He says, also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages, which they do not, Hamas does. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision, release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. And then he signs it in full caps, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. I don't know why he's signing his Truth Social posts. But anyway, so he's telling the civilians in Gaza, unless you release hostages that you aren't holding, that are being held by a group that you don't have power over, you are going to die. You men, women, elderly, children, toddlers, infants, you will die unless you hand over the hostages that you have no power to hand over. He is promising attacks against civilians, and that is almost certainly what we will get. And I will also point out again, oh boy, when he wants to go hard against someone like Zelensky or civilians in Gaza, he can do it, okay? Where's the same sick and twisted stuff about the side of this conflict that's killed 60, 70, 80, 100,000 civilians? Nope. No strength, no backbone. What about Vladimir Putin committing war crimes, using rape as a weapon of war, mass movements of people, deliberately attacking civilians? Strong words? No. No spine, no strong words. When it's civilians, when it's our allies, oh boy, he can be tough in that case, Francesca, but not when it's someone who, theoretically could stand up to him. And so we've got a few more details. What do you make of this?
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
No, I mean, I think this is very on brand for Donald Trump. And I think it needs to be a wake up call to everyone who has echoed almost similar talking points, right? This was not obviously, this is a very ham-fisted version of what Joe Biden and his administration also did, which was conflating, in many cases, what Israel does all the time, which is conflating Hamas with all of the people of Gaza, with literally the youngest population in the world. Half of all Gazans are under the age of 18. It is an open air prison. They're controlled on all sides, land, air, and sea. This is shooting fish in a barrel. This is the equivalent of 2 nuclear bombs, maybe it's 3 at this point, has already been dropped on the people of Gaza. Not to mention the mass starvation that is happening right now. So let's just understand that he does not really draw a distinction between the people of Gaza and Hamas. He says the people of Gaza, you need to release the hostages. Also Hamas, you need to release the hostages. Yeah, they're basically the same thing. And they elected, those people elected Hamas. So hold elections right now. Oh really? Where? With how? Like, what are you, and the final point is just, there is already a ceasefire, guys. It is in phase 1. It is a prisoner and a hostage exchange phase. Israel holds hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians. They have also been tortured, maimed, in many cases far worse than what have been done to the hostages that Hamas took on October 7th, okay? So that phase is ongoing. Israel has just said this week, they don't wanna do phase 2. They don't wanna, no, they prefer to just start the bombing campaign again. In fact, freeze all aid, bomb the aid that's already been allowed into Gaza. This is during Ramadan, let's starve people. And so it is, again, it's just like everything ham-fisted, right, John? It's everything but like in your face. And I think it really is a clarifying moment for people who wanted to make excuses for the Biden administration that honestly, there's not that much daylight between these two positions in practice, okay? In words, yes, but in practice, no.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the differences that's sort of hanging over all of this and has to be affecting, how Hamas deals with this is they've been told if they stop fighting, they're all going to be packed up and they are going to be shipped out of their land.
Exactly.
Their land is going to be stolen. They're going to be sent to, I don't know, a slum in Jordan, a slum in Egypt or whatever, like a massive camp maybe in the desert. So if you abide by this ceasefire, that is it for you as a people, that's it for you as a society. You're gonna be living in hovels somewhere. So again, like, why would you expect that they would comply with it, with that hanging over their heads? And just to make sure that you understand that it is not just the civilians of Gaza that Donald Trump is willing to devastate as a pawn in the games that he's playing. The spokesperson for Trump is now pushing back against a report that they plan to revoke the legal status of 250,000 Ukrainian refugees and then deport them back to an active war zone, which would obviously be using the threat of that or the reality of that as a bargaining chip in their quest to steal $500 billion of mineral wealth from Ukraine. So she's saying this is fake news from Reuters based on anonymous sources who have no idea what they're talking about. The truth, no decision has been made at this time. That fell apart at the end. This is insane. How could you possibly say we do that? We haven't decided yet if we're gonna do that. No, just say you're not gonna do that because that's crazy. Why would you do that? Why would you send these Ukrainian? These are not only migrants, these are the white migrants you normally like. And you're saying maybe we'll send them back to Ukraine to be slaughtered by Vladimir Putin. So let me just say, I don't like to generally get ahead of the facts. They're totally going to do this, or they're at least threatening this. This is not something that a random person came up with. This is a thing they're talking about. And in the meantime, by the way, they have already cut off intelligence sharing with Ukraine. Right. So the intelligence that we provide with our superior capabilities to help them ward off the superior military of Russia is already done. So right now, people are dying who otherwise would not be because of Donald Trump's actions. And maybe in the near future, way more people will be dying. Any brief thoughts?
Yeah, just that, a lot of people who were pointing out the hypocrisies of the Biden administration, accepting waves of Ukrainian immigrants rightfully who were being displaced and seeking asylum and fleeing war, while simultaneously under his administration, mounted CBP officers were straight up using whips on Haitian migrants at the border, and the implication of that, of pointing out this comparison, was never to deny Ukrainians entrance to the United States. It was to say that, don't you see that we are all the same, right? And it doesn't matter where you come from or whether, and sadly, like we often prize, if you are a white or a Christian immigrant versus if you were an immigrant of color. And it's interesting now where you see like Trump for his very own personal interests, because if these were white South Africans, as actually has been stipulated via executive order, Donald Trump wants all the white South Africans to come to the United States. Oh, and also all the rich people who can buy a $5 million gold card to come into the United States. No sex traffickers or criminal masterminds, please, because none of them have ever been wealthy. So it's just incredible. Like they don't care. It really is about a callousness towards people who are fleeing violence and war.